Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I'm a little nasally here after getting back from Cincinnati in the freezing weather, but joined here, as always, by my good colleague and pal on a Victory Monday, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, how's it going, my friend?
You know, I went into this weekend thinking it was going to be just a beautiful, wonderful event. And then Saturday, I assumed that the whole world was doomed, and it was going to be a nightmare. But Sunday saved my weekend. So, I'm not so bad.
For anyone that's new to the Steel City Underground podcast here, sometimes we derail from things and we like to be entertaining, but we were not entertained by that university up north against the Ohio State University on Saturday. Oh my goodness. But seeing as on Steelers Nation Radio, Arthur Moats and Wesley Euler were talking about this, and forgive me again, folks, very nasally, man. My sinuses are killing me today. My face, I think my eyes, I'm still they're half frozen shut still. The game book said the Steelers game was 32 degrees with a wind chill of 24. I don't think it got up to 32 until about 2 or 3 o'clock. There was one part of the stadium where the sun hit, and just that place is just built like shit. So Paycor Stadium, nothing else I could say about it, man. It's still a concrete block. At least they put the ribbon things on each side on both decks now. That the whole Smith family or whatever that owns the Cincinnati Bengals, just cheap. But anyways, I digress. They were talking on Steelers Nation Radio about the whole flag plant thing. And since we're going to be talking about penalties and officiating throughout portions of this show, what do you think about that? I'm I think Arthur Moats had it right. He's like, the Michigan kids kind of instigated it. And then you saw it happen in other games. It was like Florida State, and was it Texas or Texas A&M? And somebody got held back. There was 3 or 4 games. Who sent out the memo that they should go out to the logo and plant a flag, whereas, I think that's stupid. You're just asking for it, right? You're instigating.
They did it 2 years ago.
You're agitating. Right? Yeah.
When they won 2 years ago at the shoe, they did it. And, here's the problem. Here's my problem. You can't lose your mind about them coming and doing that if you played the game the way they played the game, which was crap. And so hey, look, to the winner goes the spoils, right? They lost the game. But here's my problem with the whole thing. While this chaos is going on, what is the head coach of Ohio State doing? He's standing on the side looking like he's a lost little child. I don't care how upset you are that you lost the game. Get control of your daggone team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100% of the way. And you saw Mike Tomlin do that in this game. That's my segue. Is Broderick Jones, former teammate of George Pickens, grabs him. And I think George Pickens is a little bit of a marked man, right? We're going to talk about different officiating.
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely marked men on the Steelers.
Oh, my goodness. 2 of them for sure. 24 being the other, Peasy Jr. Yeah. So it's just, man, both sides were not happy with the officiating from Sean Hockley and his crew. But you've got a difference between, I can't get it all the way in the frame, 2 fingers. It's the Disney point, right? It's the way the employees point at Disney. So it's not a gun, the single finger, and it's supposed to be less, I guess, offensive or suggestive if it's the 2-finger point, the Disney thing. But then he goes and clicks or does this little
that's the problem
recoil
right
and draws a flag, you big dummy. And then he's trying to explain, well, I always do. And you saw, I'm sure I got it somewhere in the image bank here for this game, and I'll find it. Cordero Patterson and maybe Van Jefferson and somebody else got the whole finger point thing going too, but they didn't do the whole motion. It wasn't directed at somebody. He's very lucky, and that's in the third quarter. Very lucky his ass didn't get thrown out of the game.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and which would have severely impacted. I don't know if virally is a word, but I'm throwing it in there anyways.
Verily would have impacted the game. Severely. We shall talk in the old English for the rest of this show.
Oh no, we're not going to do that, or the pirate English either.
Arr.
Dar, the mateys, they're pointing at the same offended. Dar, throw a flag. Oh my goodness. I think I tried to rewatch the game as quickly as I could. It's just still amazing to me what you see in stadium versus TV and vice versa. I will say this much for Cincinnati Bengals. I was just ripping on their stadium, but whoever runs the replay stuff, they show replays that home teams probably shouldn't show sometimes. Sometimes they don't show penalties. I know Pittsburgh doesn't. A lot of times you won't get to see the full replay, or you get like an edited. I saw replays, honest to God, on their scoreboard that I didn't see when I was rewatching the CBS broadcast. I'm just like, that was kind of cool. And one of those will come up later when we talk about a false start and stuff. So
well, here's the difference. So you just showed the image.
Yes.
This,
I'll pull it up again.
This right here, apparently this is like a ray gun. Pew pew. It's not offensive if it's a gun. It's pew pew. But when you put the both of them out, now you got a barrel. And then when you flick it up, pew pew. Now it's not pew pew. It's boom boom boom. And you're blowing
double barreled. It's that they got guys doing this. I know I know Charles Davis was trying to explain. The league is cracking down on this.
He's now he is my favorite announcer of all time in the history of announcers now.
Okay, why is that?
I can't even remember, but he said something in the game that I was like, "Oh my God, oh, you're my favorite announcer of all time." But I don't remember what he said.
Because you texted me, and I'm like, I have no context, dude. I'm sitting here freezing my ass off. Like,
I cannot remember what it was that he said, though.
Charles Davis is great, though, and I'm watching it, and he remembers where guys went to college, and even college rivalries and histories and stuff. I mean, honest to God, he's the best color guy that's out there right now, which isn't, I'm not going to say that it isn't hard, but the bar, it was very high from somebody like a John Madden or somebody like that. Gruden, before he went back to coaching and, had his controversies, was very good. But Collinsworth just rambles. Tony Romo with the tushy pushy. And like, what else is going on there? Greg Olsen, Tom Brady. They're
Greg Olsen, I'm okay with. I think Brady is atrocious. His voice makes me want to punch him in the face.
On chalkboard.
Yeah, he just is. He has a voice for silent movies. That's what he had. And I don't know. I'm sort of over Tony Romo because anymore it just seems like he just says stuff and then immediately says the opposite thing. He's like, sky could be blue. Maybe it's green. Don't know. Could be. Whatever.
Jim, I'm very excited. Christmas is right around the corner. I can't sit still in my seat. That's what I get from Tony Romo. Like, he's just, hey, Jim. I
thought he was fun.
Jim.
For the first 2 seasons, and now I'm sick of him and I don't like him anymore.
I'm with you 100% on that. We should get on this game though, talking about everything aside from it, but not a friendly environment. There were terrible towels, but not as many, and people were cold, so there wasn't as much noise. And we said there's a lot of plays to go through with this game, so I think it's like we're going to do a blow by blow, series by series. Let's just look at the first half, for example. Steelers go in the locker room 27-21. We didn't think it was going to be that way to start. Pick 6. Russell Wilson throws an interception, of which apparently last week we were used to seeing, or I should say a week and a half ago, Thursday Night Football. And the Bengals had a complete bye week too, by the way. So these teams were decently fresh and ready to attack each other. And that Browns game, there was, no defensive pass interference that we saw. There was no offensive holding. And we're like, hey, is this the only game we're going to see like this? And maybe, or apparently, they're just going to let things go again because George Pickens just gets completely rocked right in the face, helmet thrown to the ground. And that was something too. There was some talk about that with Mike Pursuta, Charlie Batch on the postgame. They were like, get up and still play, but he's not going to get up and catch. Was that Taylor Britt that got that one, by the way? I'll take a look real quick. I get my names. Taylor Britt. Almost a 51-yard pick 6, and you're just like, I'm sitting there like bewildered. I think that's what I texted you. I actually had to tape my hands. I even got the gloves with the finger thing. It don't work after you wash them once or twice. That thing doesn't work anymore. And I'm freezing, and I'm like, Brian, what the WTF? So I'm like, how on earth are they explaining this on television? And I'm still not sure that I agree with their assessment.
Yeah, whatever his name was, Dean Blandino or whatever the other guy is.
Gene Steratore.
Gene Steratore, that was Gene Steratore. Yeah. Said it was illegal hands to the face. Clearly the guy, had his hands on his helmet and was dragging him and hitting him in the face, or in the helmet area. The refs give the excuse of, well, he was already falling down. Well, it doesn't matter. You're still not supposed to be able to get your hands in the helmet area and up there on in the head with your fingers and stuff. It's just, I don't know. I don't. The refs, I don't even want to go off because I will. I could talk for the next hour about how bad they all stink. All of them. What did I tell you beforehand? You put on a striped jersey and all of a sudden you lost your mind and you have no common sense anymore.
Okay, I had the penalty numbers. I didn't want to make this a show about officiating, but it seemed like almost every play, there was like maybe 7 minutes left before halftime, and they already had 8 total penalties called in the game. I think 4 apiece for each side. The final totals, again, excuse my throat and my nasalness here. 9 penalties against the Steelers, 103 yards, 11 against the Bengals, 101, and those were only the accepted penalties. There were more than that.
They could have called a penalty on what's-his-face, Brown, every damn play. I mean, if they're so enamored of throwing the flag, it's almost like instead of Hockley, he's Ed Hocktua, and his Hocktua is throwing the flag. But whatever. If they were so enamored of it, every single play, 2 steps, every play.
Ed Hocktua.
It's crazy.
Ed Hocktua was the senior. This was Sean Hocktua.
Whatever his name is.
Hockley. Yeah. And I'm like, again, like, these guys are human, but I was, my goodness, like, how many? They are human, and it gets cold, and they can make mistakes, but
they're not.
Okay, if you're going to set the bar, if you're thinking we're complaining and being biased, if you're going to set that bar with what happened to George Pickens with the no call, then I want to know
how.
Call
a single Joey Porter.
Oh
PI.
My goodness,
you can't call any of them.
And there's several that are here. I could think of one of the first ones early on. He gets a whole part of shoulder pads, everything completely fine. But T. Higgins is he's a brute. Tomlin called him a goon, which is supposed to be a compliment. And
yes.
he's physical, and he's going to get in your face, and he's immediately, jamming Pickens, et cetera, et cetera. Good news is here, though, on the first series, Bengals get the ball first, and they're forced to a 3-and-out. Brown, false start called right out the gate there, and then you had some penalties. You had a defensive pass interference where Calvin Austin gets absolutely drilled, like right after the first play of the game. Russell Wilson's looking for him pretty deep. That was about a 23-yard penalty for defensive pass interference. He arrived way too early. And you know what? The TV angle probably didn't do that justice to people watching it, but I had a corner end zone view looking straight through, and it was plain as day, just early. So they slow things down. Sometimes it don't look the same way. However, Steelers respond. Only a couple of plays after this, you had some big chunk plays here and there. Russell Wilson has that interception with Taylor Britt on this one. They come right back down the field, finds George Pickens, who scampers down the sideline for a big 17-yard touchdown. And Pickens punts the ball into the stands. Now, everybody's going to sit here and they're going to jump into comments, and it's easy to poke at whatever, whoever and whatever. Give me the guy with some emotion at least, but got to rein him in a little bit because you don't want to also hurt your team with penalties. You saw Tomlin grab him, give him like whatever he's talking in his ear.
And Broderick Jones. I mean, I'm very impressed with both of them. I thought that was a perfect response, first of all, to the initial drop the ball on the guy and get the taunting flag. Both of them, took him aside and said, calm down, we're going to need you. You can't do this kind of stuff. The fact that he didn't listen very well is a problem.
But as
Tomlin said this at the end of the game, right? He just said he needs to grow up. He needs to grow up.
In a hurry, too, is what he said. And I get it. There was a lot of trash talking, man, particularly Mike Hilton. Couldn't stop running his mouth the entire game. We saw him with a lot of
he's just mad we didn't pay him.
Yeah, he is. He's I'm going to reserve what I want to call him for now. We'll see. Yeah, a punk. Yeah, he's a punk. Pickens, Steelers knotted up 7-7, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, where's this Steelers defense at? Because all of a sudden Burrow, he throws to Higgins, Chase Brown, he gets like a big chunk, 13 yards, then has his longest run of the season 41 yards, but that's reversed to 40 and not a touchdown. But he does get in on the next play. Minka Fitzpatrick hustling. A lot of people saying, where's Minka been? Well, nobody wants to throw where Minka is. He played a lot up in the box. And what was interesting in the coverage and the snap counts for this game, Brian, let me pull it up real quick, because Cameron Sutton most certainly took over for Beanie Bishop in this game, and Sutton was following around Jamar Chase, who the Bengals were trying to operate out of the slot with Higgins on the outside. So you almost always saw Higgins up against Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, or Cameron Sutton, one or the other, usually covering Jamar Chase, all depending. And you said, did they forget to play zone defense? It looked like it, but man, I'll tell you what, the Bengals didn't play very good zone defense either. Just to give you the snap counts, let's see.
Let me say something about that. I'm okay with the Bengals not knowing how to play zone defense, because they're not good, right? They're bad defense. We're supposed to be good defense, and it's so soft. We got so soft playing zone. When they played man up, they played decent, right? But when they played zone, man, I mean, just the one play where you got Higgins and Jamar Chase standing there and nobody's anywhere near them. It's ridiculous. It was so bad.
Yeah, particularly later in the game, because you got to remember, Burrow and these guys, we said they could score quick. We saw them do it against the Chargers. We saw it late in this game, too. It reminds you of Big Ben, even like post-late career Big Ben, remember, against the Vikings, where it's just a bunch of points and still gives them hope, keeps them in there. Beanie Bishop only playing 6 snaps in this game, as opposed to Cameron Sutton playing 45. So just to give you an idea, there were 62 total defensive plays. Only 2 players played all of those, because even Porter came off the field for a short spell, talking, getting his mind back into it. Patrick Queen and Minka Fitzpatrick, who also saw a couple of snaps in the victory formation, which was nice to see too. So as we continue on, this just keeps going back and forth. So Chase Brown scores, it's 14-7. And we go past into the second quarter. In the first play of the second quarter, Russell Wilson finds one of my dudes. I've been all over Calvin Austin for the longest time. I've been telling people to have some patience. He comes back after that big shot that he took, and Wilson finds him on what appeared to be a very similar play to the one that they connected on and scored in Cleveland. Once again, they're going to knot up the score here, 14-all. Calvin Austin starting to look like he could be a weapon. Of course, it's rocked again a little bit later in this game and knocked out. Now you got a longer series by the Bengals coming up next. 9 plays, 70 yards, score another touchdown. This is the one where they find Jamar Chase. There was two different defensive pass interference, defensive holding and then a defensive pass interference call on Joey Porter. I think they only had the one actual play here that was the third down. They didn't even see a third down. So you can't even say the Steelers defense couldn't get off the field for third down. It was like constantly they're going to watch and they're going to flag either Pickens or Porter Jr., depending on who's on the field.
Yeah, especially, look, Joey is a physical corner, right? He's a tall, rangy corner, avatar, as they like to say. He's gonna be physical. And with T. Higgins, you have to be physical because he's a physical receiver. You can't, it's some of those, like you said, the very first one, that's just a legitimate PI, right? He's got 2 holds of everything. But the rest of it is a lot of hand fighting, and you got to let them do that, right? Because T. Higgins is dishing it out just as much as Joey Porter Jr. is, and those just should not have been called. But he's got a rep, right? He's got a rep now for being handsy, and every ref is going to look real close, and if they think they see something, they're going to throw a flag.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way I felt. Rewatching the game is a little difficult here or there. I'm thinking that might have been the one. There was one here where there was actually more than one that were like uncatchable balls. And it's like, Joey, if you just keep your hands to yourself, these aren't going to be called. There was one in the back of the end zone for sure. That might have been Higgins too. No, that might have been Yosefas. Actually on this drive that I was just referencing. Yeah, it's like it sailed into like the 4th row of the stands. I'm sitting there live, like, really? They're calling that? And you even heard Ian Eagle. He said something to the effect of uncatchable or whatever, but they're still calling it because for whatever reason, it's still interference. And it just, it really did. It felt like there was two different rules at play, depending on if it was Pickens that somebody was getting physical with a couple of times. And we saw that even going back to like the Cleveland game. Justin Fields at the end there, you're like, okay, how's that not pass interference? But then Joey, he breathes on the guy like a little bit, and you're getting called. So that the consistency is more the problem that I have. But man, I'll tell you, these guys would stop the game for like 2 minutes and they're conferencing. And it's like, what the hell are they talking about here? Now, the one that they did conference on, it's like, well, we're not going to throw Pickens out. And you're like, oh, thank God, right? But I'm sitting there like, is that a real reason, or did he chicken out not throwing Pickens out there? I'm like, I'm not really sure. Does it matter who or what it's directed at when it's when everybody was told 2 of these penalties means you're disqualified, you're ejected?
I honestly think that they talked about it, and I think that's this is what you texted me. He didn't have the balls to do it. And I think that's exactly right. If the penalty is what the penalty was, then look, that I don't buy that this dropping the ball on the guy is taunting, right? But a gun, which they all went crazy about, NFL's cutting down on gun. I don't buy that that's not to the same level. So, whatever their point was, I think it all came down to the sphincter got a little tight, and they went, yeah. I don't think we want to throw him out of the game, because then it's like, oh, what do we do? We can't do that.
They were, they had some fans.
He'd have done one more, he'd have been out, though, no matter what it was.
Well, there were Cincinnati fans that were even saying, they were like, even when there were penalties against their own team, they're like, why are they calling this? And it's like, because it shows up on film and they get graded for it. So that's why they're at least throwing the flags for it, because if they don't, then they're going to be in, hot water over it. And I'd be curious to see what the conference call or whatever the decision is on the non-decision to throw out Pickens there. And it might have been, they're looking at the clock. It's like third quarter, star player. There could be any number of things that go in their head that aren't necessarily in the rule book. They're bending it a little bit. It's not black and white. It's a gray area, right? So I wonder, like, how they discuss that. These guys, as much as we want to make fun of them and talk about how they suck or whatever, they probably know every single rule by letter of law. They're like, oh, that's under, 8, section 2A or something like that. However, it's, organized within the operations. I know you don't buy it, but
I don't buy it. I don't think they know anything. They just are hanging by the seat of their pants.
I know it's a thing, but I know it's a thankless job, having come from that world of officiating at professional and collegiate level. Different sport, but same concepts. A lot of it carries over. And trust me, the guys, they're not out there for the most part. I don't think anybody comes in with any preconceived notions that they're we're gonna get this guy, because you got to see them some other time, or you might see them some other time, or you want your own longevity. You want to keep your own job, so you want to do a good job. But geez, oh man, like some of this is just like, how strict are you going to be? And we know that he's a second generation referee too, that's in charge. And the old man used to call like everything letter of law, lawyer too, right? I believe so. And jacked, the guy was like jacked. But where are we at in this game? 21-14, Steelers come back, 5 plays, 68 yards. 2 penalties on this drive too. Sebalu, one was a false start, but there was the face mask when Najee ends up scampering for 8 yards, again, another 15. Let me tell you, this was one part during the game. I know that Logan Wilson didn't play, and they had this Davis Guider playing in his spot as an inside linebacker with limited experience. And it was the Cincy fans are just like, how can you not cover this? It was almost like backyard football at one point. Maybe not as much as the Buffalo-San Francisco game was in the snow last night. But Russell Wilson snaps the ball, and it's just like, just run right through here. Boop. Just run right through here. Boop. Then they bring Cordero Patterson in, and they're like, let's do this. And then they got Cordero Patterson at one point off the right end of the line and ran the same play 2 times in a row. And it was blowing their minds. I thought for the most part, there was one point where you were like, okay, I didn't like the play calling there. I believe it was after the Dante Jackson interception, which we didn't get to yet, because the very next play after it's not at 21-21, the Steelers are now going to go in the driver's seat after scoring 3 straight touchdowns in a row. Bengals gifted 7 by a defensive no call and then the pick 6 that they had. But Burrow ends up getting strip sacked by TJ Watt. He leaks out to his right. TJ, I don't know how you don't hear TJ's footsteps, how you just don't see him in your dreams, in your nightmares, just bearing down on you at some point and coming to strip the football. There's got to be a clock or something like in these players' heads. I was just kind of surprised because for all intents and purposes, Joe Burrow is one hell of a quarterback. I think people are starting to call him Dan Marino, like having a Dan Marino season where Dan Marino played on some poor Miami Dolphins teams that didn't have any winning records and had trouble and difficulty closing out games. So Steelers get the ball right back, Brian, but all the more they can capitalize on this is 5 plays, 29 yards and a field goal, but they do go up 24-21.
Yeah, I don't think that was the series. It was the series where they essentially ended up going 3 and out. And I don't know, they ran some dumb screen and then ran the ball and then had 3rd and long. It was just poor set of play calls. I thought they got cute, which they'd been playing a really solid game, good game plan, leaving it a lot in Russell's hands. And maybe it was Russell who got cute. I don't know. But that one series, I was overall very happy with most of the way that the game was put together and the game plan and the play calls. But that one series I didn't like. But I don't think it was that one. I think it was the next one.
It's one of the field goal ones or the missed field goal drive here. They actually forced the Bengals to punt for the first time in forever. And I was kind of worried about that. They forced him to punt, and then Calvin Austin ends up out at some point. I'm like, who's going to return punts? And we never got to answer that question because I don't think the Bengals, they don't end up punting again at all. They either scored or turned the ball over on their ensuing drive. So as we continue, Steelers answer with another drive. Yeah, I think it was this right before half. This might be it, Brian. Now, they do get in position for a field goal, but 38 seconds left. They still have a timeout in the back pocket. There's 2 shots here. There's one to Calvin Austin. It's only like 6 yards. They call the timeout. And then Russell Wilson finds Jaylen Warren kind of in the middle of the field. And there's still about, he finds him one more time. That's right. So he finds him a second time. It's 14 yards. There's 19 seconds. This ticks down to about 15, 14. I'm like, call a timeout. Then you might take a shot or two at the end zone.
It's all the way down to 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're down at the Cincinnati 16, but he let it tick all the way to 3 seconds, and then let Boswell kick a 34-yard field goal. I get that, but man, you really step on another team's throat if you get the tutty right there instead.
Yeah, absolutely, especially because when that right before the half, and we were going to get the ball back in second half. If you can get in for 7 there, come back out for 7, all of a sudden you change the dynamic of the game. It's not as tight. I mean, it's sort of changed anyway, but it's not as tight, and maybe you put them in panic mode a little earlier than we ended up doing.
Yeah, and the Steelers are up 6 at halftime instead of maybe potentially more. They get the ball back, and then you have the big play, the moon ball to George Pickens down the sideline, 36 yards. The referenced, one of these. Oh, it might have been the one where he dropped the ball or something. It's one of them. It was almost every play, right? And I got to rewind again because everyone's going to say Pickens. Let me remind you that he probably didn't earn any friends when you had the pick 6 at the beginning. He's on the ground and he's complaining at the officials in the very first series, Steelers offensive series. So the referees are already, well, we're sick of this guy. He's going to whine. He's going to complain. And now they might take it out on him a little bit. That's a lot different than coming into the game saying, oh, we're going to stick it to this guy. No, I don't think I think in game there were a lot of tempers, and it may have flared on more than one side. Again, like I said, referees also being human. But this one ends. This drive ends. Calvin Austin ends up getting hurt. Chris Boswell gets a field goal blocked, a 42-yard attempt, and now it's still only a 6-point advantage. And you're kind of worried. Oh, gee, Cincinnati they've been scoring. Luckily, on the next one, it's only 12 plays, 48 yards, but it was still 12 plays. It was 7 minutes, 35 seconds on this 12-play drive, closing the gap to 27-24. You got about a quarter and a half of football left, and you're like, well, this is just a shootout now. And Vegas, we're very close to the over-under at 47. Well, now they hit the over already here for 47. Got to do the maths, Brian. Yeah, maths with you. That's okay.
Yes.
I'm poking it.
What was the score at that point?
27-24. By the way,
that's 51, which is more than what the over and under was.
By how many? Oh, I'm giving it away.
I don't know. What was the over under?
47.
Oh, by 4.
Yeah, there you go. Ding, ding,
Yeah,
ding.
I can do math.
Hey, someone was in the comments section, right? They said maps with Brian because we were trying to figure out that little area, Louisiana. I thought that was pretty clever.
I love it. That's awesome.
That was great.
We need a new graphic.
Yeah, we do. Maps. Now we'll be doing that during the pre-games. Oh, so are the Steelers down and out? Can they get something going again? And you're looking at it and you're like, okay, they had too many men on the field, blah, blah. Najee Harris, who played like a man possessed. We're going to get into individual performances as we knock this out. But Russell Wilson finds Pat Freiermuth for 25 yards here. And to be completely honest, he had Mike Williams also on this. This is where Cincinnati had like this bad zone.
At Mike Williams at all.
Yeah, I know. He saw Freiermuth for sure. Williams maybe not as easy as a throw because he's closer to the boundary, right? And maybe somebody could close there. So I don't have a problem with it. But I just wanted to point out, even though Mike Williams has been absent, he's taking defenders with him. That allows one guy that's there to maybe have to cover Freiermuth as well. Opens up this. Steelers go up 34-24 at this point. The defense has to come out for the fourth quarter. You're like, hey, could the defense do something? Now, the defense does do something, right? To the tune of Mr. Nick. Well, this wasn't Nick Herbig yet. I'm sorry. This is T. Higgins, where the ball is tipped by Cam Hayward at the line of scrimmage.
By the man. The OG GAM, Cam Hayward, who had also one of my favorite stops in the game when, just hand the ball off and Cam went, I'm tired of this crap.
Yeah, the defense
just blew the guy up in the backfield. It was awesome.
Oh my goodness. There was just a collective oof when that happened in the stadium. Everybody saw that and was just like, wow, did that really just happen? And I don't think people sometimes give Cam Hayward the recognition that he really deserves. But after the interception, this might have been it too, Brian, because Russell Wilson, incomplete. Zach Frazier was ineligible downfield. Jalen Warren, left guard, 4 yards. Russ tried to find George Pickens. Malo gets tagged with the offensive holding. It's declined. And then Waitman comes up to punt for the first time. And
that was the series right there.
Yeah.
I did not, especially the first play. I just did not like the first play call at all. Really annoying. But whatever.
Which is fair. That's fair. You're just like, man, are they keeping this team around for too long? And this is the ensuing drive I was talking about. Nick Herbig zooms off the side. The tackle's just completely overwhelmed all day long. Orlando Brown, he I don't know what he did. Their fans were complaining about him. It was just like he was too cold. He was blocking air. Not a good game for him at all. But Burrow gets sacked. He fumbles. It's recovered by Peyton Wilson and taken in for a Steelers defensive touchdown, which nullifies or is at least the equalizer to the earlier Taylor Britt pick 6. Yep. And you've got the rookie making big plays. He scoops it up. I wanted to say, too, that on the previous Burrow strip sack from TJ Watt, was it Patrick Queen tried to pick it up first? Somebody went to pick it up first, but did you see Preston Smith? He palmed it like a basketball. Like, guys dive on a grenade, right? And the ball is unpredictable because it's a weird shape. Everyone will make fun of the pigskin, right? It's not your normal, like a basketball, soccer ball, volleyball. It's not round. It's this weird geometric shape that's capable of bouncing in any direction. Like, dive on it. Stop its momentum. Make sure you get the ball like they did on the onside kick attempt with Connor Hayward. Preston Smith just comes in there with his, like, mitt and just picks it up off the ground and like palms it. And I'm just like, I was so bewildered by that. So this is so impressive. Steelers, they scored off of that defensive touchdown, but still give up yet a whole bunch of this is this next series, Brian. It's 7 plays, 70 yards. Joe Burrow pass for T. Higgins, 8 yards. Pass to Chase Brown, 20 yards. Pass to Iosavash for 17. Incomplete to Higgins, incomplete to Chase, incomplete to Higgins again, but 1, 2, 3 different penalties, all thrown. You had an offside by TJ Watt.
2 of them on Joey.
Joey with the holding and Joey with the pass interference. And I thought, man, this is like totally weak because you got T. Higgins just running straight up into him to try and gather this, to get this wanted contact. And just, we're going to start playing like that. Then by all means, play like that when it comes to physical receivers. But Cincinnati closes it within 10. You still don't feel comfortable about this game with about 8.5 minutes left. It's 41-31. Steelers run 11 plays, 72 yards, finish with a Chris Boswell field goal. They were as close as the Cincinnati 4-yard line. Najee Harris, only 1 yard. Cincinnati starts using their timeouts. They use the third one on a 2nd and 3. Jaylen Warren loses a yard, and then Russell Wilson gets sacked, but he pretty much just kind of he folds there. He was very smart with the football all day long.
Yeah.
Much quicker with his release, did not hold on to the ball unnecessarily, got rid of it when necessary, and found, I believe, 10 or 11 different receivers that were going to go through. But Boswell's score makes it 44-31, but we're still not over with this game. Within 5 plays, the Bengals marched 64 yards, and the kick returns, ball wasn't sailing as far. The dynamic kick return was actually a little more dynamic in this game with both sides when it comes to field position, right? Because it was in that landing zone and kind of short of even getting near the goal line, so teams were forced to return. But, man, I'll tell you what, it was just Burrow. I mean, he had a jump pass in this game. He was just all over the place. Porter, again, called for illegal use of hands on the Yosavash touchdown. You're just like, oh, illegal use of hands. They know what that one is now. So, Burrow, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception on the day. But the Steelers' defense getting the job done too. They sacked him 4 times, stripped him twice, and that really was the telling tale as we try to get to them closing out the final moments of this game. They get the ball back with 2:38. Cincinnati has no timeouts left, and you got the 2-minute warning, and that's going to be the only clock stoppage. Jordan Battle gets hurt. You're at the 2-minute warning after 2 Najee Harris runs. It's 3rd and 4, Cincinnati 40-yard line. The Steelers need these 4 yards. Russell Wilson walks over off the field. Justin Fields comes on for the 2nd time. And now you're getting maybe some vibes from that Browns Thursday night game. You're like, oh no, we need to close this out. I don't know about you. In that stadium, people were celebrating because it looked like Jaylen Warren ran into a wall. Problem was he didn't have the football.
Right.
And it was just like, ooh, holy cow, was that the fake of the century? They're talking about it. I know Charles Davis said, if you're Lou Anarumo, how do you not have somebody that's just watching Justin Fields there? And boy, is he fast, and was that a play call and a half?
And he slid in the right place.
In
he
bounds,
didn't screw it up this time.
Yeah, and in bounds too. And just everybody celebrated on the sideline. You had 2 knees from Russell Wilson. You close out the game. Russell Wilson, I think I've been hearing off the schneid. That's been like the thing. All the sports shows, all the radio shows. Well, over 400 yards. I think this is the first time since 2020, maybe. If I ran these stats in the summer, I'm like, this guy hasn't been putting up big yards. Completes 76.3% of his passes, even in this cold weather. 29 of 38. Steelers actually threw the ball more against this Bengals defense, as they should have. We knew they had a very weak secondary. We talked about this in the pregame, and just saw Russ just direct traffic, change plays at the line of scrimmage, gain the matchups they wanted. 3 touchdown passes, also kind of getting off the schneid there. He's had a lot of multiple touchdown passes, but he gets 3 there. You had the 1 pick, of course, that we feel probably shouldn't have happened. Only sacked twice, got rid of the ball a lot. Completes passes to George Pickens, who led all receivers with 74 yards. Freiermuth led all of them with 6 receptions for 68 yards. Both had a touchdown. Calvin Austin with the 23-yard touchdown as well. Then you had Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, Van Jefferson, Cordero Patterson, Ben Skoranek. Yeah, Michael Pruitt and Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington, grown-ass man, first down run there too. But Ben Skoranek, man, you almost think that when you see him on the field, it's going to always be a running play. And Russ finds and calls his number too for a big gain. He was the guy that I thought Scotty Miller was going to end up being when we were talking during training camp and heading into, you know, the preseason and that. What a welcome addition he's been, because he gives them somebody that's a physical, willing to do anything kind of guy. I even think there was one of the runs or something, and you just see him, he's down the field trying to block still. He is keeping up with the plays. It was the Van Jefferson catch. He was he was down there, and he's trying to help and aid and trying to get his guy. What a team player he is, also on special teams. So he's like a third kind of utility guy that, even though the ball doesn't get passed to him very often, this guy played a ton of snaps in this game. 23 snaps, 33% of the game. A welcome addition. Probably plays maybe a little bit more, maybe with the Calvin Austin injury. I'm not sure.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. But, I mean, Austin only played 16. Mike Williams played 17. And then you had Cordero Patterson also chipping in and contributing on the ground and in the pass game. Like I said, he caught 3 passes for 37. He had another 3 runs for 16. Steelers still hit the century mark overall. Najee, 16 carries, 75 yards. Played as a man possessed as well in both the run and pass games.
I really, there's very little to complain about offensively in this game. Yeah, you had some defensive concerns, but again, this is an offense that is very targeted towards, this is the most prolific offense. I know the Ravens are the most highest scoring offense in the league. Haha, they lost to the Eagles. But the Bengals put up points against everybody. I mean, they put up points against the Ravens. They put up points against the Chiefs. They put up points against everybody. They just can't put up enough because their defense stinks.
Yeah, that and turnovers too. They get bit, the offensive line. They brought Orlando Brown there, and he was supposed to be the final piece to get them over the hump with the AFC title games and the Super Bowl. And now they're sitting at a 4-8 record. They were very deep on the outside looking in even before the result of this game. They're not mathematically out of it, but it's very unlikely that they're going to be playing for anything by the time they return and play the rematch game in Pittsburgh to close out the year.
Very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
Spoilers. That's their best. And the question will really be, if they're really out of it, right? Really, really out of it. How much, it's the last game of the season. How much are you going to risk Joe Burrow? How much are you going to risk Jamar Chase? How much are you going to risk T. Higgins? How much are you going to take the chance in that game that means nothing to you other than maybe a little pride? They're still, those guys are assets of that team. Burrow has had injury tendencies. They just sacked him 4 times. Are you going to put that risk at the end of the season when it's meaningless to your team? I don't know. I don't know who's going to play.
Yeah, I don't either. 520 net total yards for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the most I've heard since going back to the 2018 season, September 2018. And I have that game. Hold on one moment. That would have been total yards. Was that against? No, it wasn't against. That's the most they've had since. So it's kind of hard to believe. Once upon a time, the Steelers used to put up gobs of yards on offense. 481, that actually would have been in October, so I don't know who threw this up on Steelers Nation Radio. 475. My math ain't math in there. 472, 475, 413, and then 481 before their bye week that year. But that 481 also in a road game at the Cincinnati Bengals back when Ben Roethlisberger ruled that particular jungle.
Yeah, well, come on. Ben has the most 500-yard passing games in league history. So, they definitely used to put up big numbers.
Yeah, they used to put up big numbers. Just hoping that this isn't, I don't know, how much of this is just kind of, you felt like you had a lead. You're not playing crazy defense. They got the pressure a lot of times before. They did finally bring an extra guy to blitz, particularly Patrick Queen. Sometimes, but man, Patrick Queen sometimes lining up in the slot with maybe Chase or Higgins or somebody there wasn't the best look either. I know you want to keep him on the field, but that happened way too many times in these matchups. I think they were just like, you know what? You're going to have to beat us running the football, and then damn near nearly did with that long run with Chase Brown at one point. But everything's looking nice and shiny for, let's call it the Tomlin haters. The Steelers are guaranteed now another 500 season with their 9th win here at the 2024 regular season.
Better than 500 season.
Better than 500 season. And that means Mike Tomlin, NFL record, 18th season, 18th winning season as a coach. I know everybody's going to be like,
to start a career. Let's just be clear. Okay. Record to start a career, because there are other still who have more.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I'm okay with clarifications, man. We got to point that out before somebody else does, right? So
right.
Now you're looking at a pretty healthy lead as the Ravens go to enter a bye week after losing to the Philadelphia Eagles with Justin Tucker.
Womp.
Yeah, womp.
You know, my brother's, as I've said many times, one of my brothers, he's an Eagles fan, right? So he's watching the game. He's the very first, couple plays, the Ravens get the big pass down to Zay Flowers, whatever. And he's like, I don't think we're going to be helping you out. And I'm like, well, that's not with that attitude. And then, Tucker misses a couple field goals. And I have to send him, the Nelson thing from The Simpsons where he's like, ha ha. Every time Justin Tucker misses a field goal, I just do that. Ha ha. I don't like him.
I hear you, man. Steelers get a return date now at the Cleveland Browns. I don't think it's any kind of trap game after what just happened with that Thursday night game and having that loss. And after having all of this, animosity and furor over this game with Cincinnati, they're going to go into that one pretty hot too, and ready to do battle at Acrisure next Sunday. One would hope. You've got the Eagles in Philadelphia. You host the Chiefs shortly thereafter. You got the Ravens, and then
the
Chiefs.
Browns, Eagles, Ravens, then Chiefs,
yes.
Bengals.
So it is tough because you've got a Saturday, you got a shorter week after the Eagles on the road. You got to go to Baltimore on the road now. Yeah, just stay out there, guys. That's like in the same area. You can just drive. Don't even bother. Some teams do that every now and then. Yep. I'm like, just stay there. But for the Steelers, hey, you might be getting Alex Highsmith back into this mix too, with Nick Herbig playing.
That was creepy. That little hey there. Hey. That was a Will Levis commercial. Hey.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, hey.
You know what, Brian? Did I tag you with this?
How much I hate that commercial.
I know, you tell me about it all the damn time. I know the other one that you hate. Did I end up texting you that with a photo of myself in like 80 layers, and I said bundle Ruski?
yeah. Oh, I don't hate that commercial. I just can't believe Andy Reid is allowing himself to be a clown. But hey, whatever. He's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. Doesn't matter. Do what he wants.
Yeah, you can get away with that at some point. So that'll do it for us here, folks. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate you watching or listening wherever you may be. We're all riding pretty high. There's not a whole lot to complain about with this game. We see the Steelers actually have an offense for like the first time in like a very long time. I found the other stat there in 2018 too, 41 points against the Atlanta Falcons. That might have been one of the higher ones, but they did score 52 that same year in a Thursday night game against the Carolina Panthers at home. So it's been a long time. We'll just put it that way, that we've seen this kind of Steelers offense. It sure looks like all the naysayers about switching to Russell Wilson. I don't think you get to the same point in the season if Tomlin doesn't make that change. It also makes me wonder where this team might have been if he started initially. Like, would they still have the same kind of chemistry? Would they have maybe played differently against the Colts or the Cowboys? Could they possibly have a better record?
I think they win those two games. If Russ is playing the way Russ is playing, they beat the Cowboys. Almost guaranteed they beat the Cowboys. And they probably beat the Colts too.
I wonder if they lose to anybody else, though, that would have been like the other way around with Justin Fields helping with his legs and stuff like that. It's always the coulda, woulda, shoulda. You don't know. It's the what ifs.
The offense is just so much more in sync. He sees the field so much better. Look, I was very questionable about what Russ was going to be like, what he was going to provide. I didn't think he was washed because I remember saying this early part of the season. When you looked at what his numbers were last year, he was putting up good numbers until they benched him. The fact that they couldn't win games wasn't really on Russ, right? But here's the thing, you don't know. You don't know what it's going to be like. At some point, age does catch up to you, right? Mr. Rogers. And you look human.
Shots fired.
Or yeah, hey, look, Mr. Overrated is always on my list of people to shoot some negative comments at. But beside the point, I think the next 3 games specifically, maybe the next 4, are going to tell you a lot about exactly what Russell Wilson can do, right? If they come out of, all right, forget the Browns game. Although don't forget the Browns game. Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs. If they can come out of those 2-2 or 3-1, Russ is going to get paid.
Yeah, and he's going to get paid by the Steelers because he's already had an experience of trying to go where the grass might be greener, and it wasn't greener. And at his age, and I think with the way everything is going, also Arthur Smith declining a potential opening at the University of North Carolina, his alma mater, that kind of like leaked out and got quashed pretty fast as well.
And the question is, what's the deal, right? So, and I'm only bringing this up because I've read some speculation online about what this looks like. Let's say Russ goes, 3-1 in those games, and then they beat the Bengals, and they've got the division sewed up, right? And maybe are even the number 2 seed at that point, because if you get to that point, maybe the Chiefs lose another game and you're the number 2 seed. Okay, I don't know that they're gonna. I think the Bills are looking like they might manage to take the number 1 seed if the Chiefs slip, but we'll see. Let's say that they get there, right? Let's say that they get deep into the playoffs. How much are you going to pay Russ and for how long? He's what, 36?
35, probably going on 36, obviously.
Is it more than a 3-year deal, even if he wants a longer term deal? Can you, I agree. I don't know whether it was Dale Lally or one of the other beat writers. I agree with this statement. You only give him a 3-year deal if they can get out of the 3rd year.
That's kind of a Steelers thing, though, I would think, is if you get out, if he's a little on the, long in the tooth, age, athleticism-wise, you got to think that they'll start planning for the future, maybe even draft somebody at that point, even if it's a 2nd-round pick or something like that, depending on how quarterback crazy, everything's quarterback crazy these days, so it's difficult to say, but who might fall, and just kind of have some type of succession plan to do this all over again. You also don't know if this is a Cinderella thing and he turns into a pumpkin.
You never know.
That's always something too, but man, I've been happy with it. He just turned 36 3 days ago, November 29th. So a happy birthday to Russell Wilson. One other 2%er note too. Jamal Agnew and Eric Rowe were signed to the practice squad within the recent week or two. And, we talk about Alex Highsmith and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting to see how that may impact, because Agnew's a return guy, right? Through and through. Mm-hmm. Maybe they stop putting Jaylen Warren back there. Maybe you got Cordero Patterson and Agnew, both Pro Bowl level return guys, on these dynamic kickoffs in December, January, cold weather. Intriguing.
Cordell had a nice one this week. He had a very solid, decent return.
Mm-hmm. And then Eric Death Row, I thought he played great joining the Steelers midway when they had all those woes at the safety position. And I'm like, that totally seems like an addition to this team to play against Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, all these mobile quarterbacks, and maybe even Allen going into the playoffs. So we'll see when he gets, if he gets activated and used at all. I may be counting my chickens before they hatch, but they've got some reserves in place. They've been very mindful of every spot on this roster, that even though you're not seeing a lot from Mike Williams, he's out there, he's getting somewhat integrated, and he is definitely a guy, when you do call his number, he showed that he could answer it. He only has that touchdown, but it was a huge one. So
yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I'm not going to go barking up the wrong tree with that one. I think that'll do it for us, Brian. I'm starting to lisp here a little bit. I got this cough drop. It's wearing out. I got like the tickle in the back of my throat. Folks, thank you once again for joining us, supporting us. I'm sorry that, I'm not at the top of my game trying to recover here. This weather is like, I can't stand it, man.
I don't know what you're whining about. I go out and ride bikes and walk around in this weather, so I don't know what your problem is.
You've got like those heated vests, and
I do not.
You
do not. You know what I have?
You got the mask, like the Darth Vader.
I have a bearskin tactical hoodie.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, I looked at that, like the motorcycle ones. They got the gloves, and like I don't think the technology's all the way there yet, but it's in the right idea with the battery packs and everything. You look like something out of Tron. And I thought
have heated gloves that I never wear because they're too bulky, and they don't let me touch the screen on my phone, so that when the phone goes off, I have to take them off. But I've got a pair of gloves. They're decent. But it's look, it's 2 layers, and that's it. That's all I'm wearing.
All of a sudden, though, we went from like really great weather to really crap weather with Cleveland and then Cincinnati, and we'll see if it carries on. I'm saying Pittsburgh, we're going to be in the 40s, maybe 50s with some sunshine on Sunday. Knock on wood, that's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for that Christmas Day game to not be like a 9 degrees where the beer is freezing with the negative wind chill and everything, where it's freezing and turning into a beer slushy. The Yingling was literally foaming up into ice out of the top of the can. So, and just a little private inside look to our lives here, Brian. I'll share this for the 2%ers too, real quick before we sign off. Brian is not an adult beverage guy. I do not know of you to partake in any kind of alcoholic beverages.
I do not like that stuff.
So when I see like something that looks like a drunken text from you, it's either you're very upset with the game and frantic, or it's just autocorrect doing its thing.
That's what it is. It's either autocorrect or I'll tell you, see, that scrolling thing the kids do where they can move their fingers over the keyboard.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm not hipping with it like that.
I try and do that, and my fingers are not, either I'm just not very accurate, or the autocorrect doesn't know what I'm spelling, or because this is true, I can't spell for shit anyway. I end up sending some really strange things at times. When I'll read it afterwards, I'm like, that is not what I typed.
Yeah, I know. Same thing happens here. Well, folks, thanks for indulging us with all of our autocorrect woes. That'll do it for us today. Catch us on the flip side here later in the week when we preview the return battle week 14, Pittsburgh Steelers and Cleveland Browns. Oh, that's going to be a doozy. I can't wait for that one. The crowd is going to be, what do you want to say, ravenous for the Steelers to get a little bit of payback for that game. So till next time, folks, that'll do it for us. My name's Joe. His name is Mr. Brian E. Roach. I did the whole motion. That's a flag. Well, next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.